Picture the one thing you want most right now. Not a small thing, the big one. The raise, the house, the body, the person, the number in your bank account that would finally mean you'd made it. You can see it, can't you? You can feel how different life would be the moment you finally have it. Now, here's the uncomfortable part. Get it. Actually, get the exact thing you are picturing. And within about 6 months, maybe a year if it's really big, you will feel almost exactly the way you feel right now. Not a little happier. About the same. There is a machine running quietly in your head whose entire job is to make sure of that, to take whatever you achieve and slowly wipe the glow off it. It is called the hedonic treadmill. And once you can actually see it running, you can finally start to outsmart it. So here's the question that should bother you. Why does getting what you want stop working so fast? Why does the thing you were certain would change everything turn into background noise within weeks? It isn't that you're ungrateful or broken or chasing the wrong things. It's that you are running on a treadmill you can't see, and almost everyone alive is running on the exact same one. To understand it, we have to start with the name. In 1971, two psychologists named Philip Brickman and Donald Campbell gave this feeling a name. They called it the hedonic treadmill, and the metaphor is so good, it's worth sitting with. Imagine walking on a treadmill. You step forward, you put in real effort, you make real progress, and the belt slides backward underneath you at exactly the same speed. So you end up standing in precisely the same spot. That, they argued, is what happens with happiness. You get the raise, and for a moment you surge forward. But your expectations rise to meet your new salary almost instantly. What felt like a fortune last year becomes simply normal this year. The new baseline you measure everything against. So you have to run again, chase the next raise, just to feel that same jump one more time. You are moving. You're just not getting anywhere. Now, this could have stayed a nice metaphor, but in 1978, Brickman and two colleagues, Dan Coates and Ronnie Janoff-Bullman, decided to test it on the most extreme cases they could find. They tracked down 22 people who had recently won big in the Illinois state lottery, some of them up to $1 million, and they compared them to ordinary people from the same neighborhoods who had won nothing at all. If money and good fortune simply make you happy, the winners should have been glowing. They weren't. When the researchers measured their actual day-to-day happiness, the lottery winners were no happier than their neighbors. A windfall that most people spend their whole lives dreaming about had moved their happiness essentially nowhere. But the second finding was the strange one, the one that should genuinely unsettle you. The researchers also asked everyone how much pleasure they got from ordinary little things, reading a magazine, eating breakfast, getting a compliment, a good conversation, and the lottery winners enjoyed those everyday pleasures less than the people who hadn't won. Winning hadn't just failed to make them happier. It had quietly turned down the volume on all the small joys that were already there. They had traded 1,000 tiny pleasures for one enormous one, and then adapted to the enormous one until it was gone too. But the study had a second half, and it's the part that flips the whole thing around. The same researchers also interviewed people who had recently been in catastrophic accidents. People left paralyzed whose lives had changed in an instant in the worst way imaginable. If you ask anyone to imagine that happening to them, they will tell you their life would basically be over, that they could never really be happy again. That is not what the researchers found. Yes, the accident victims were less happy than average. This isn't a fairy tale, and real loss is real. But they were nowhere near as devastated as everyone, including you right now, would have predicted. Many had adapted far further than anyone thought possible, and rated their pleasure in everyday life surprisingly high. The treadmill, it turned out, runs in both directions. It drags your highs back down, and it lifts your lows back up. So, what is actually powering this thing? Brickman's team pointed to two separate engines, both running at the same time. The first is habituation, the simple fact that your brain stops noticing anything that stays constant. The first time you got into your new car, you could smell it, feel it, You noticed every detail. A month later, you were just sitting in your car thinking about something else entirely. The car didn't change. Your attention to it did. Anything that stays the same fades into the background. Your home, your salary, your partner, your own working body, until you genuinely forget it was ever something you wanted. The extraordinary, given enough time, always becomes ordinary. That's engine one. The second engine is rising aspirations, and it's sneakier. The moment you reach a goal, your mind does not stop and savor it. It quietly moves the finish line. The promotion you chased for 2 years becomes, the day after Yutsao, just your job, and now you're eyeing the next title up. The dream house becomes the house, and you start noticing the kitchen you'd renovate. You don't arrive, you just relocate the horizon and start walking toward it again. The goalposts move at exactly the speed you do, and there's a cruel little twist hiding inside that lottery result. It is not only that big wins fade, it's that big wins can actively spoil the small stuff. By contrast, once you have felt the explosive high of winning $1 million, the quiet pleasure of a good cup of coffee or a sunny afternoon has to compete with that memory, and it loses. The peak makes everything around it look flat. So the very thing you chased in order to feel more can leave you feeling less everywhere else. This is why people who seem to have everything can be quietly, bafflingly numb. They've raised the bar so high that ordinary life can no longer reach it. And here is the part that should make you look at your own life a little differently. This isn't just about lottery winners. It is running on you right now, on everything. The phone you waited months for is now just the thing you check. The salary that would have thrilled you 5 years ago is the one you quietly resent today. The relationship that once gave you butterflies is comfortable now, and some part of you half misses the butterflies. None of that means anything has gone wrong. It's the treadmill doing exactly what it does, and we have built an entire world designed to run that treadmill faster. Every advertisement, every feed full of people with more than you exists to lift your aspirations one notch above wherever you currently stand, so you never quite get to feel caught up. We can even see it across whole countries. Economists have found that as entire nations grow vastly richer over decades, their average happiness barely moves at all. Because as a society gets more, it simply learns to expect more. The whole country jogs forward on the same belt. And the cruelest part is that knowing all this barely protects you, because your brain is genuinely terrible at predicting its own future. In 1998, the psychologist Daniel Kahneman, the one who would later win a Nobel Prize, ran a study with David Schade around a deceptively simple question: does living in California make people happier? Almost everyone assumes it does. Sunshine, beaches, palm trees. So they compared people living in the Midwest with people in sunny Southern California. And the result was flat. The two groups were just about exactly as satisfied with their lives as each other. But here's the catch. When they asked people to guess, everyone in both regions was certain the Californians had to be happier. Why the gap? Kahneman called it the focusing illusion. The moment you focus on one single feature of some other life, the weather, the salary, the house, one feature swells up and fills your whole imagination, while the 1,000 ordinary things that actually make up a day quietly vanish from the picture. You imagine the sunshine, and you forget that you'll still be stuck in traffic, still arguing about the dishes, still fundamentally you. As Kahneman put it, nothing in life is ever quite as important as it feels while you are thinking about it. That is the engine that keeps you sprinting on the treadmill. You genuinely cannot feel in advance how completely you are about to adapt. So if every win fades, every high gets erased, and the goalposts always move, is lasting happiness just impossible? Are we all running in place forever, chasing things that were never going to work? The men who named the treadmill were genuinely bleak about it. Brickman and Campbell suggested that, short of some future happiness pill that could simply set your mood wherever you wanted it, there might be no real way to permanently raise your level of happiness at all. For a long time, that was the depressing conclusion the whole field sat with. You're on the treadmill, you can't get off, good luck. But it turns out they were wrong, or at least only half right, because in 2006, a group of researchers led by Ed Diener went back and revised the entire theory. And what they found is the most important part of this whole story. The original idea said everyone returns to the same fixed, neutral set point, no matter what happens. That, it turns out, is not true. First, people have different set points. Some of us really are born a little sunnier than others, and that's partly genetic. But second, and this is the crucial one, your set point can actually move. It is not a sealed thermostat. Tracking thousands of people over many years, they found that some life events never fully wash out. People who go through long-term unemployment often don't completely bounce back. Even after they find a lasting disability, the death of a spouse, these can shift a person's baseline and leave a durable mark. Now that sounds dark. But turn it over. If hard things can permanently move your baseline down, then the treadmill is not a sealed prison. The set point can move, which means the real question was never, how do I get off the treadmill? It's, can I move where the treadmill sits? And the answer is yes. And here is where it gets genuinely useful, because decades of research point fairly clearly at what actually works. And it's almost never the thing you'd buy. The first rule comes straight out of how the treadmill runs. You adapt to whatever stays constant. So the move is to stop holding still. Variety is the enemy of adaptation. The same pleasure repeated every single day fades. The same pleasure spaced out and varied stays alive. One study found something almost funny, that temporarily giving up a treat you love, like chocolate, and then coming back to it later, makes you enjoy it more than if you just kept eating it the whole time. A little scarcity resets the meter. Second, spend your money and your time on experiences, not objects. An object sits in your house and turns invisible within weeks. An experience, a trip, a concert, a night that becomes a story you tell for years, resists adaptation because your memory keeps reserving it and you keep retelling it. Third, spend on other people. Strangely, doing something for someone else tends to stick in a way that buying something for yourself simply does not. And fourth, the quiet one. Deliberately notice what has already gone invisible. Gratitude isn't a greeting card cliché. It is a direct countermove against habituation, dragging the background back into the foreground so you can feel it again before you lose it for good. The home you stopped seeing, the body that still works, the person sitting right next to you. The treadmill turns the extraordinary into the ordinary. Savoring is you, on purpose, turning it back. And the biggest move of all is hiding in plain sight inside Diener's own research. The things that genuinely shift your baseline and refuse to fully fade are almost never objects. They are relationships, meaning, and the slow burn of getting better at something you actually care about. A new phone goes invisible in a week, a deepening friendship, a craft you're slowly mastering, the sense that your days matter to somebody, keep quietly paying out for years precisely because they are never finished, never static, never quite the same twice. If you are going to run anyway, run toward the things that don't go flat. So here's the reframe that actually matters. The hedonic treadmill was never a glitch. It is a feature, and an ancient one. The same machinery that erases your wins is the reason your ancestors never sat back, satisfied, and stopped trying. Permanent satisfaction would have killed them. The moment enough truly felt like enough, they'd have stopped hunting, stopped building, stopped reaching, and been overtaken by everyone who couldn't sit still. You are descended from the ones who could never quite be satisfied. That restlessness is your inheritance. So the problem was never the treadmill itself. The problem is that you live in a world that has learned to hijack it, to aim your built in restlessness at things, purchases, numbers, none of which were ever going to hold. You cannot step off the treadmill. That part is not up for negotiation. But you absolutely can choose what it is pointed at. You can aim it at novelty instead of stuff, at people instead of objects, at experiences and growth, and the handful of things that genuinely refuse to fade. And you can go back right now to that one thing you pictured at the very start, the thing you were so certain would finally do it, and see it clearly, maybe for the first time. Go ahead and get it. Enjoy the surge, you've earned it. And then keep moving, eyes open, knowing exactly what your own brain is about to try to do next.